You were listening to 10,000 Worlds, written and read by Weston Gill. That's me.
Chapter 51, Trapped. Morgan stepped out of the cab and sucked in a shaky breath. Sweat clung to her skin. Her legs trembled. To call today emotional would have been an understatement of her lifetime. She had betrayed her friends had betrayed her. She had sprinted, full sprint, not jogged, 2 miles in heels, and somehow survived. Catching the cab had been the only lucky break she'd had in days. She'd practically thrown herself in front of it. But that was behind her. She just needed her purse and her phone. She walked into the model home and spotted the 2 broken halves of her phone on the counter. She snapped them together with surprising ease. When she held the power button, the screen flickered to life. A spiderweb crack spread from the right center, but the image held. Morgan exhaled relief. She grabbed her purse from a shelf in the kitchen, dug for her keys, and headed for the front door. She pulled it open, straight into a pair of black dress shoes and cheap slacks. No more showings today, she said automatically, eyes traveling upward. Her breath caught. She stumbled back, horror widening her eyes. No, 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 she screamed as Gant stepped forward towards her. That impossible smile stretched across her face and the world collapsed into pitch black. In an instant, everything vanished except for her, Gant, and an endless expanse of nothing. Still, Morgan pedaled backwards. Her shoulders slammed into a wall she couldn't see. She kept one hand on it, retreating backward, never taking her eyes off the monster. Please no, I'll do anything, she shrieked. I didn't think you'd come back here, Gant said, his resonant voice echoing unnaturally in the void. Thought I was wasting my time hanging around. I can help you, Morgan pleaded, voice breaking. I can help you find the others. Just please, let me live. Gant's smile widened, impossibly calm, impossibly wrong. He walked, not fast, not slow, just inevitable. Please, I know where they are. Morgan moved blindly, bumping into something, then stumbled through a doorframe she hadn't known was there. Blackness swallowed everything. Her heel caught on the transition from hardwood to carpet, and she crashed backwards with a strangled cry. Gant loomed above her. He hadn't jogged, he hadn't hurried, he had simply arrived. Please, Morgan screamed, her voice cracking. Jake can't see some of them, but I can find them. Gant tilted his head. Then he bent over her. Tendrils of shadow poured off of his form, drowning everything but his eyes and the teeth in absolute darkness. I'll help you, Morgan sobbed, utterly defeated. Chapter 52, The Shapers. Morris stepped onto the bridge of the Linimus 5, the most advanced union of magic and science the Shapers had ever produced. The vessel, city-sized, grown from bioengineered cellular plating over metallic bones not found in any natural universe, hummed with a quiet, disciplined power. Its interior skeleton housed electronics centuries beyond anything Earth had yet dreamed of. Hundreds of sleek monitors floated in the air around the bridge, accompanied by layered holographic displays, maps, societal analytics, shifting essence patterns, atmospheric metrics, tactical overlays. 1,000 instruments fed data into multiple AI cores, who produced and surfaced only what was most relevant. Across a wall of global projections, world maps fractured seamlessly into regions, cities, neighborhoods, then into thousands of flickering lights. Each light, a potential essence user. Each blink, a new scan, accurate to the second. Aura skimmed her team's reports. 400 Shaper cells, 2 to 15 members each, were already embedded on Earth, living among humans, gathering intelligence, identifying anomalies, studying newly awakened mages. Their data poured in like a tide. The bridge buzzed with soft conversations as the crew prepared for the transition. Dozens spoke into radios, verified readouts with seatmates, or cross-checked displays. A countdown clock hovered above Mora's station, its seconds fading with mechanical precision. Many crew had personal timers synced to the millisecond. Minutes, Mora announced. All crew ready for shift to Earth. The mic clipped to her collar carried her voice instantly to every team lead. Blue confirmation icons lit up one after another on her console. Shift teams, confirm readiness for portal alignment. More data scrolled by, and she absorbed it with practiced sweeps of her eyes. Sections of the ship glowed green on her extended map as teams verified their stations. 1,000 Tor, elite, disciplined, and flawlessly trained, prepared for the world transition. Linimus 5, detached from its anchors in Sanctuary headquarters, floating freely now. Mora pressed a single command. The AI cores cross-validated every crew member's work in less than a heartbeat. Blue lights shifted to green. She allowed herself a small, proud smile. As the countdown hit 8 minutes, she keyed her mic again. Exploratory and targeting probes launching in 30 seconds. The bridge hushed. Screens flickered to new telemetry systems. Mora counted down from 10. The probes deployed. Data spiked. Destination lock required in 120 seconds, she called out. The ship came alive. Crew debated readings across stations, voices rising with urgency. The AI intervened as needed, confirming, correcting, or redirecting interpretations. More intel poured in, and the bridge centralized it with fluid precision. Planetary network and shift link enabled, Morris spoke into the mic. Instantly, the bottleneck vanished. The AI began dissecting real-time data from every cellular phone, computer, tablet, or connected device on Earth. Mora's screen shifted again. Laboratory Team 3 locked in their coordinates first. Others raced to verify. The AI gave its approval and began running full system checks. Mora reviewed her power indicators, then sent them to the AI systems for secondary verification. Shift coordinates locked, shift actual in 5 minutes, 35 seconds, Mora announced. Footsteps approached. A tall, broad-shouldered man in blue and red robes saluted, moving his fist from his shoulder to his chest. Mora muted her mic. Report? All teams ready? All systems clear for shift, Venrion reported crisply. Mora re-enabled her ship-wide channel. All checks good. Shift in 4 minutes. She slid through a series of data windows, then turned to her first officer. Venrion, she said with a smirk, full crew check complete. Conduct inspection and landing protocols. I'll see you in the other world. He smiled, saluted again, and left the bridge. For a moment, Mora was done. She had roughly 3 minutes to feel anxious, 3 minutes to bear the weight of command, before her mission truly began. After that, she would not know another moment of peace for months. Time passed, both unbearably slow and startlingly fast. Then the countdown hit 0. Mora tapped her mic. All stations, shift protocol updated to baptism protocol. All teams, welcome to Earth. Her excitement resonated in her transmission. The vessel tore through reality. On the other side, it split cleanly into 12 separate ships, each peeling away into the skies of Earth like silent predators, invisible to human technology, invisible to human eyes, already positioning for the invasion. Cheers erupted across the bridge and echoed from the sister ships. Mora watched her people with unmasked pride. Commander, a red-robed officer saluted. Elian, you have the bridge. Mora returned the salute. She crossed to the elevator leading to the portal room. 30 seconds later, she stepped inside as the dormant portals flickered back to life, each metallic archway now linked to a specific ship or the sanctuary node in another universe. Report, Mora barked. A blue-robed shaper saluted. All systems have confirmed green light on all destinations, he said easily. At ease, she said. He lowered his fist and began verbally verifying each portal link. Mora confirmed each visual as he spoke. When finished, she pivoted and headed for the main docking bay. Venrion joined her outside the bay doors. Together, they entered with a small team of engineers and scientists. They spent long minutes inspecting systems, verifying inventories, and reviewing logs. When complete, they exchanged salutes and then parted ways. Mora returned to the bridge, their course, the western United States, Earth's most influential regions and countries. She smiled as the ship soared from the South Atlantic into the Gulf of Mexico, gliding toward its first outpost. Excellent work, everyone, she said over comms. 12 hours until arrival at Outpost 1. Travel and survey crew assignments until 2300 hours, Earth local time. She reviewed the selected location, a quiet intersection, of California, Nevada, Oregon, and Idaho. Sparse population, minimal air traffic, minor military presence. The vessel would hover at altitude, concealed within a massive cloud generated from its own water vapor stores, invisible and untouchable. Maura left the bridge for her private quarters. She needed the rest, whatever little she could manage. The grin stretched across her face was unmistakable. The Shaper operation on Earth had begun. Chapter 53. Answers. Aaron's laughter sputtered out when he opened his eyes and realized he wasn't in Emily's living room. He was somewhere else entirely. A vast half-dome warehouse stretched around him, cold, empty, echoing. Exercise rigs, metallic obstacles, a line of beds shoved in the far corner like a barracks thrown together overnight. The air felt heavy, wrong, as if it was waiting for something. Aaron spun slowly, panic crawling through him. Liz appeared a second later, mid-stride, stumbling as she materialized. Her eyes flew wide, darting across the cavernous room. No, what the hell? Nina arrived right after her. Landing on unsteady feet, she clutched her abdomen as if bracing herself from the inside out. Please tell me I'm dreaming, she whispered. What the fuck is happening? Aaron asked, voice confused. His forehead throbbed in perfect rhythm with his pulse. Nina looked at him, terrified, her breath hitching. Liz ran both hands through her hair, fingers shaking. Honestly, I'm so goddamn lost. Who was that? What was that? Who just... Her voice broke. She sucked in a quivering breath. What did we get dragged into? She said her name was Vuet? Aaron said numbly. She said she was going to train us? Nina's throat bobbed. He took a careful step toward Aaron. Aaron, I'm sorry. Her voice was paper thin, already dissolving. I didn't know it would be like this. I didn't mean to... He couldn't answer. He just stared, hollow and overwhelmed. I didn't want any of this to happen, she whimpered. Reaching out, her fingers landed on his arm, trembling. Please believe me. A sudden voice shattered the moment. Fuck. Vuet appeared, mid-stride, pacing hard, muttering under her breath. All three jerked towards her, their eyes locking in as they shifted to face her. Vuet froze, plastering on an awkward smile. Hey. No, Liz snapped instantly. The word cracked like a whip. Not hey. Where the fuck are we? What did you do to us? Her whole body shook with anger, but also fear. Vuet exhaled slowly. We're just in another world, the largest city in the universe. Nina stepped backward until her shoulders hit a metal pillar. What? We're what? You're joking, Liz said, voice trembling. Please be joking. Aaron just stood, slack-jawed, eyes drifting unfocused. He was breaking under the escalating absurdity of the day. Vuet tilted her head and answered, You'll train here with Master Tor. Learn to use your powers properly. Liz laughed, sharp and cracking. What the fuck is a Tor? You keep throwing words at us like we took some class on this shit. She stepped forward again, fists clenching. And don't you dare call yourself a wizard, or swear to God, if you call yourself a wizard... Vuet's strained smile softened. Okay. Tor are essence manipulators. The best trained, the most capable. Liz stared at her like she was speaking in static. That means nothing to us. Nina grabbed Liz's shoulder, grounding her. Hey, breathe. She paused. We need to hear her out. We need to understand. I'm trying to understand, Liz snapped, voice shaking violently. I'm trying and nothing makes sense. Everything is making less sense. Vuet nodded sympathetically and continued. Essence is the energy tied to unbound laws of the universe. It's mana of sorts, but also bound to each and every living thing. Aaron sank down onto the floor, cross-legged, hands behind him to physically hold himself up. This is so weird. His voice was too calm. Liz rounded on him, eyes blazing and wet. Aaron, stop. Stop acting calm. This is... She stuttered. I'm terrified, okay? And you're talking about this like we're watching some documentary. Aaron blinked up at her and shrugged slightly. Vuet tried again. He's in shock, Elizabeth. He needs time. Her voice was soft. Oh, he's in shock because you kidnapped us and you're going to turn us into wizards? Liz spat. Yes, Fouette said, not unkindly. Liz drew a short breath and huffed. Fouette resumed pacing, speaking with her hands. Many worlds exist. More versions of Earth than you or anyone else can comprehend. Your world is one of the most tightly bound to natural laws, but about 50 years ago, energy began leaking in from other universes with looser rules. Nina wrapped her arms around her torso as if trying to hold herself still. Leaking in? From where? Liz narrowed her eyes, listening despite herself. The universe will eventually adapt, Fouette continued. It rebinds what it can, but some energy escapes. Imagine a river flowing into a lake. She paused, thinking. The river water isn't poisoned exactly, it's just different. Different temperatures, different minerals. Over time, the lake changes. Like a mine upstream, dumping metals into it, Aaron mused. Fouette pointed at him, pleased. Exactly, only not all minerals are toxic, but the fish born in that lake aren't used to them. Most would die, but some rare ones would adapt. Their offspring even more so. She spread her arms toward the group. You are the fish that adapt, the ones who live. Aaron nodded slowly, processing. What happens to the fish that don't? Typically, they die, Fouette admitted, frowning. Liz flinched as if struck. Her mouth fell open, but no sound came out. Oh, magic is the river and earth is the lake, Aaron completed her thought. Yeah, Fouette nodded. Liz exploded. What the fuck is wrong with you two? Her voice cracked on the last word. Aaron, Nina, and Fouette froze. Does this not sound like some sort of weird genocide? Liz demanded, stepping forward, tears in her eyes. Genocide? What are we supposed to just live with that? Aaron blinked, thrown by the intensity of her fear. Was the magic natural, he asked softly, or introduced? That doesn't matter, Liz snapped again. We're being poisoned. Nina looked between them in anguish. Liz, please. No, Liz shouted, voice breaking. Don't please me. We're talking about the whole world, and it's dying. Fouette sighed. Your world is settled, bound, its laws. That is not the answer, Liz snarled. Was it introduced? She demanded. Fouette hesitated, and then nodded. Yes. By who? Fouette answered quietly. Cracks between your universe and other, less settled universes. Doorways. Liz looked nauseated. So, worlds bleeding into each other and people just die, and you can't fix that? Me? Fouette's eyes widened. Elizabeth, no, I can't just fix that. Yes, you, Liz shook, voice trembling. Why can't you fix it? Do you think you could build a dam between continental-sized lakes alone? Fouette asked. Maybe if I was a wizard, Liz snapped. Fouette pressed her palms into her temples. You don't understand. What caused the cracks? Aaron asked. Liz ignored them. I'd try something. I'd do something. Fouette lowered her hands and stared at Liz. And what exactly would you do? I don't know. I'm not a fucking wizard. What caused the cracks? Aaron said slightly louder. I am a wizard, Elizabeth, Fouette shot back. But your standards, and I'm not going to pour sand into a lake and pretend that that's going to work. So what are you going to do? Liz asked, voice tight and desperate. I'm going to move the fish, Fouette said simply. Liz stared blankly, as if the words knocked the strength out of her. What caused the cracks? Aaron's voice raised, almost shouting. Fouette suddenly remembered he existed. She looked at him, expression tightening. Rylan, she said. What's a Rylan? Aaron asked. Fouette took a breath to answer, but the warehouse doors opened. A man in black scrubs stepped in. A small group followed behind him. I'm Rylan, he said. Liz and Nina instinctively stepped closer together, shoulders bumping. Where Liz's posture was bristling and angry, Nina was rigid with fear. Rylan looked ordinary, a young man, medium build, light beard, bright eyes. He looked like any other nurse or doctor in their prime, and dressed just as plainly. Then something glinted. A silver orb at his neck tore free, shot across the room and hurled itself at Aaron. Rylan blinked, startled. Aaron attempted to scramble backwards, but it was useless. The orb hit Aaron's chest and melted into him, through his clothes, into his skin. Interesting, Rylan murmured. A beat later, Aaron vanished. Liz screamed. Nina clapped both hands over her mouth, eyes filling with tears. Rylan only smiled faintly. Very interesting. 54. Daycare. Emily sat stiffly in the chair, staring at the young boy across from her. He stared back, smirking slightly as if there was some game. She didn't know exactly how to react. He was just a kid, a literal child. So she smiled, nodded, and let the silence stretch. It felt like hours. So you can command people to do things? Jake said, too enthusiastically. Emily inhaled, eyes dropping. Yeah, she muttered, barely above a whisper. That's pretty cool, Jake said, almost bouncing in his seat. Emily shook her head. No, it's not cool at all. Jake blinked. Why not? She sighed, raising an eyebrow. Jake waited, bright-eyed, patient, in that boundless way only children could be. Imagine, Emily said at last, that every time you told somebody to do something, they did it. No choice, no hesitation. They just acted. Jake's face lit up. Yeah, that sounds awesome. It's not awesome, Emily snapped before she could stop herself. Frustration burned through her. At the situation, at herself, at being left alone with a magical toddler. Jake flinched and pulled back slightly. Okay. Emily closed her eyes and exhaled hard. I'm sorry. It was Jake, right? Yeah, he said, some enthusiasm sneaking back in. I don't know if what I can do is awesome, Emily sighed. All I know is I've had to be careful with every word I've spoken since I was a little kid, and it's been mostly a nightmare. Can you tell me why? Jake leaned forward, still eager, but gentle. Emily rolled her eyes, but only because the truth hurt. I got into a fight with my best friend in grade school, and I told her to go die. I didn't mean it, but she still did. Her voice cracked. I've told my brother to hurt himself, to forget things, to leave me alone, to listen to everything I've told him. I used him as a test dummy for years to practice my powers. Her breath hitched. I told my parents to leave us alone, and they did. For almost a year, they wouldn't speak to me. And when I told them to be my parents again, they tried, but it was just never right. I don't have friends, Jake. I avoid people because if I slip and if I say something stupid, they do it, and I can't undo that. Her head fell into her hands and she cried. The pressure of the confession, the fear, the exhaustion, everything poured out all at once. She felt the chair shift, and then a small arm draped awkwardly over her shoulders. Jake sat beside her and rubbed her back awkwardly. I'm sorry, Emily, he said. She didn't trust herself to speak, and so she didn't. She just let the comfort wash over her. Strange and surreal as it was, she needed it. Sorry, I didn't think about it, really. Emily tilted her head back to look at him, then lowered it again. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry harder. It's really hard to be different, Jake went on. Sounds like it's been even harder for you. His hand rubbed up and down her back. The whole movement felt unreal, but grounding. Eventually, Jake asked, Do you really think Gant will leave us alone then? Emily sniffed and met his eyes. No one's ever been able to ignore me before. Why would he? Jake pulled back slightly. You don't really know. Know what? She asked. Gant is a monster, Jake blurted. Like a real monster. Jake blinked slowly. Emily blinked slowly. I get that you don't like cops. Jake made a face and interrupted her. What? No. I don't. He's not a cop. Detective, then. Whatever. You know what I mean, she tried, equally confused. He's not a fucking detective. Jake threw up his hands. He's like Sully or Mike, a demon, a nightmare in human skin. He's not a human. Sully or Mike? Emily stared, confused. That doesn't matter. Jake shook his head and stood and began to pace, exasperated. Gant is a creature. The dog lady said so. Were you not listening at all? I thought that was like a saying, Emily said defensively, like calling cops pigs. Not a saying, Jake said firmly. You're a mage or a wizard or whatever, and Gant is a fucking monster. Emily wanted to dismiss it, but Some things were starting to line up in ways that she didn't like. He eats mages, Jake went on, steals their powers, devours people with shadows like some comic book villain. Emily managed a soft, sad smile. Okay, Jake, let's say I believe you. No, let's make you believe me, Jake leaned in, deadly serious. What can I explain? Gant eats wizards, takes their powers, he's a cannibal, he's a killer, and he wants to eat you, and your brother, and me, and Liz, and those other two girls. He froze, his face twisted with horror as realization struck him. Oh, fuck, Jake whispered. Oh, no, I can't see her. I can't see Morgan. He must have gotten her, too. You can see anyone you want? Emily asked carefully. My brother? Jake wasn't listening. His eyes flicked back and forth, searching for something unseen. Morgan's gone. Fuck, we're next. How could I fucked up. We have to figure out how to beat him. Jake's eyes were pleading and desperate. Jake, can you see my brother? Emily pressed gently. Jake shook his head. I can't, he huffed. I couldn't before the lady took him. He's invisible to me. I thought I saw him for a second, but no. I couldn't. And I can't see her either. The Vouette lady. She's invisible too. Do you know where she took him? Emily asked. Jake finally met her eyes and softened. No, I'm sorry, Emily, but I think she was telling the truth. I think she'll keep him safe. Emily slumped in her chair again. Emily, Jake said urgently, we have to do something about Gant. Please, I need your help. Emily looked at the boy, tiny, possible child who somehow made more sense than most adults she knew. She didn't know if she was humoring him or agreeing to change her entire life. Okay, Jake, she said quietly. Where do we start? Chapter 55, Essence Wells. Vouette, I'll need you for this, Rylan commanded. Vouette paused, glancing at the frightened cluster of children behind her, some lost, some horrified, all of them expecting answers she didn't have. Confusion churned in her chest, but before she could make any sense of anything, she felt it. The pull. Rylan's power reached for her through worlds, a force heavy and inevitable, a gravity she had never felt from anywhere before. She tried to resist. Even with all of her training, it was laughably impossible. We'll be back, Rylan told the children. Your friend is safe. Do not leave the compound. Vouette vanished. Rylan used his powers again, summoning a huge crab centaur monstrosity. It materialized before them, 10 feet tall, broad as a car, covered in ornate onyx shell. It swayed side to side, adjusting to its weight. Watch them. Do not let them leave, Rylan told it in a language no human would recognize. Then he vanished as well. He appeared beside Vouette, both standing a few paces from Aaron, who rocked violently on the cavern floor. His muscles spasmed, body arching, jaw locked in a silent groan. The boy wasn't screaming. Somehow, the pain had claimed him beyond the part of him that could make sounds. Rylan, Vouette snapped, her voice sharp as a blade. Rylan offered her a gentle smile. Her fury only grew. What have you done? Despite Aaron's obvious suffering, she never looked away from Rylan's face. Her mentor, her friend, the one person she'd trusted to never use his powers that way, had just done it. Easy, Vouette, easy, he said quietly. I don't know what's happening to him. It wasn't safe to leave him in sanctuary. Vouette took a hard step forward and pointed at him. The pole, Rye. Where did you get that much power? You do not impose your will on me like that. Not on me. Her voice trembled with rage and something deeper, hurt. Rylan dipped his head. I'll tell you everything. Please calm yourself. No. She shook her head violently. No. Vouette. Rylan met her eyes and smiled softly. The power comes from here, comes from this place. He gestured around them. Only then did she finally look and freeze. Vouette had heard rumors of Shaper resonance caverns, but never seen one, never imagined them like this, never dared to believe they were real. Crystalline architecture stretched for miles in every direction. Clear, towering crystals covered the ceiling, walls, and floor like the ribs of a god. Each crystal pulsed with a swirling rainbow of light, essence so dense and bright it made the air shimmer. The ground beneath them was a flat, black path wide enough for a dozen lanes of traffic. It gave under her foot, rubber-like, absorbing her weight. "What is this place?" she managed in a whisper. Of course she already recognized it. These crystals could power entire districts of sanctuary. One crystal. They were essence magnets, drawing raw cosmic forces into refined reservoirs, power plants for worlds. But there were not dozens here. There were millions. Enough power to remake a world from scratch and then do it again and again. Fouette's mouth hung open in silent awe and horror. Rylan spoke, as if giving a simple tour of a simple place. These caverns store excess essence, harvested from shapers' training bands. Recruits cycle their energy through them until their stamina becomes superhuman. What isn't used is stored here, for the elite to use. Fouette's head spun. The cavern seemed to tilt around her. "You linked yourself to this place," she gasped, finally understanding the impossible force that had pulled her here. Not just that, but her mentor's seemingly endless depths of power. Rylan nodded. "And the children," her voice shook. "You linked them." "Yes," Rylan said quietly. "You gave children the energy of gods," Fouette breathed. "Power the shapers themselves won't sense because it's theirs." The total genius of it made her want to scream. "I am linked," Rylan said with another nod. "As are the adepts from Earth. To the shapers, you all look like anomalies, wandering tour. There's no reason for them to question it or investigate." Fouette stared into the far reaches of the cavern. "Rylan, what have you done?" Rylan looked at the ground, unable or unwilling to answer. Aaron's fractured moans drug her back. Fouette rushed to the boy, kneeling and lifting his head into her lap. She hummed softly, stroking his hair, trying to ease the pain she couldn't imagine. Rylan watched silently as she calmed herself through comforting the boy. Minutes passed in tense stillness. Only Fouette's gentle hum and Aaron's quiet moans breaking the stillness. Finally, Rylan spoke. "I got us the army we need to stand against the shapers on Earth." He said it was like a basic truth, like stating gravity pulls downward. Fouette searched his face, desperate to find hesitation, doubt, anything. "Fouette," Ryan continued, "this world was swept clean by the Noctium. Everything is gone. Everything was gone in a moment. The shapers waited until it was safe, and then they mined it. And they turned it into the largest battery in the universe." Fouette clenched Aaron closer. "What did you do to these kids, Ry?" "I linked them to the same source of power the shapers use. I gave them unlimited energy." "What's happening to Aaron?" she asked, her voice thick. Rylan inhaled deeply. "I don't know." He paced, hand on his chin, thinking. "I have a theory." Fouette's heart froze. "I think," Rylan continued, "he might be a true dragon. I think he's absorbing pure essence inside himself, trying to match the volume of this place. I think he's realizing what he is." Fouette's eyes widened, shocked beyond speech. "I can't explain it any other way," Rylan said. "He absorbed the seed of the Shaper's power the moment he came near it. His essence is blinding, star bright, deeper than that maybe." "You're describing a myth," Fouette whispered. "A legend." Rylan met her eyes, and for once looked absolutely certain. "It's a sign," he said softly, "that we do have hope, that we're on the right path." Chapter 56. The Judge. "What the fuck is happening?" Liz yelled. The crab-like creature blocking the door twisted sideways in a way no creature should be able to. Dark, glossy plates clicked against one another as it adjusted its stance. Its entire form was shades of black on black, like a hole punched through reality, an absence more than a presence. Nina rocked back and forth, dazed. Around them, the other captives exchanged helpless looks, shrugs, raised eyebrows, silent confusion. A rugged guy in the back with a heavy 5 o'clock shadow stepped forward and offered Liz his hand. "My name is Vince," he said, forcing a smile. Liz stared at the hand, then at his gray scrubs, then at his face, studying him like she was mentally preparing an eyewitness statement. Normally, Vince said after a beat, chewing his lip, this is where you'd tell me your name. It's introduction. Liz pinched her eyes shut and drew a long, steady breath. She reached out and took his hand. Liz, she said. She gestured behind her. That's Nina. Nice to meet you, Liz, Vince said, now smiling for real. He nodded towards Nina. And you too, Nina. Uh-huh, Nina replied weakly. Vince released her hand and stepped back, pointing to a blonde guy. That's Caleb. He moved through the group, introducing each. Kelly, Joe, Sarah, Beth, George, Will. 8 strangers, all in matching gray scrubs, all early 20s, all with eyes that were too bright, too hopeful, like they hadn't seen anything of the world yet. To Liz, it felt like a slap. Yeah, hi, she muttered as he finished. Right, Vince continued, plowing through the awkwardness like knee-deep mud. The big shelled guy is, I guess we call him Click Click. I don't know his real name, but it's all clicks. He winced. So we just call him Click Click. Liz wasn't laughing. What happened to our friend? She asked, her voice cold. Vince looked hopelessly at the others, blank stares. No idea, he said with a shrug. And you're all wizards? Liz pressed, frustration rising. Vince brightened. Rylan calls us attuned. Uh-huh, and he's training you? Nina shook her head behind her in disbelief. Yeah, Vince said, uncertain now. And what has he taught you so far? Liz demanded. Well, we do fitness drills, some focus exercises, meditation. And have you improved? Vince hesitated. I think so. The others nodded or agreed half-heartedly. Liz narrowed her eyes, and then the massive warehouse doors blasted open. Everyone turned. Even Click Click looked startled, at least as startled as a crab monster could. A woman stepped inside, the picture-perfect stereotype of what Liz imagined a high-tier wizard would look like. Deep blue robes, shimmering with stars, streaked with nebulas in purples and burning orange. A thick tome hung on a leather strap from her hip. Her boots disappeared up her calves beneath the robes. Her hair, high in a tight ponytail, matched the cosmic patterns of her clothing. A shadowy creature darted from one shoulder to another. She crossed the room with regal confidence and stepped before Click Click, staring directly at the creature's pit-like eyes. I am Judge Orla of Sanctuary's High Council, she announced, voice melodic and strangely rhythmic. I am here to see Rylan Donaral. Click Click chattered a sequence of clicks in response. Orla nodded, then turned toward the assembled group. And I assume all of these wielders are registered? Click Click clicked again. A confirmation, an argument. No one knew. Orla smirked. It was sharp and hungry. Liz felt herself smiling too. Finally a real mage. Rylan might call himself a teacher, but these attuned hadn't shown any progress whatsoever. Weeks of nothing. No certainty, no training, nothing that was real, nothing tangible. But this woman, she radiated power. Liz was already picturing the things she could learn from her. Orla's eyes locked onto Liz and narrowed slightly. You look more eager and less confused. Let's have a talk. Liz didn't stop smiling. If anything, her resolve sharpened. This was the kind of power she wanted. This was her path to mastery. Done being afraid, she would learn one way or another from Orla, from Rylan, from someone, and then she would go home and she would face Gant.
Chapter 57. All points something. Emily watched Jake throw himself into the work like a tiny, stressed-out detective with a caffeine addiction. It had been days. He slept in bursts, ate only when she shoved food his way, and talked about nothing except finding other magicians. Meanwhile, her life was dissolving. Her job sat abandoned, her nerves were shot, her hope that Aaron and that weird woman might reappear was fading fast. She found herself doing pointless tasks just to keep herself from screaming. Making sandwiches Jake didn't touch, washing clothes, picking up spare clothes from Aaron's house for Jake to wear, making more food they both picked at. Eventually, she left the TV on just to drown out the sound of their breathing. She sat on the couch with her head in her hands, silently begging the universe for something, anything to do. Oh no, Jake said quietly. Emily's head snapped up. Oh no, what? Well, Jake said, dragging every syllable out like he was rewinding a tape by hand. Well, what? Emily snapped. Jake winced. Do you know what an all-point bullhorn is? Emily blinked. A what? A bulletin? He corrected quickly. The cop says it on TV. Emily stared at him. Jake, what happened? He swallowed hard. The police think you kidnapped me? Emily's eyes went huge. They what? They think you kidnapped me, he repeated shyly. Jake! Emily shot to her feet. Why did the police think I kidnapped you? Jake shrugged helplessly. I assume since Gant can't come here, he told them something to make them come get us for him? Assume? Emily's fists clenched at her sides. Aren't you watching Gant? Jake flinched. Not exactly. Why aren't you watching him, Jake? Her voice was cold and dangerous. A few reasons, he whispered. What reasons? Emily pressed, each word like a button she wanted to break. Jake curled up, pulling his knees to his chest. He resists my power somehow, and he's boring. It's scary. He's boring? Emily stared down at him. Yeah? Jake said in a small voice. Her anger evaporated all at once, leaving panic behind. She paced the room like a cat in a cage. So I'm a kidnapper now, she muttered to herself. Not technically, Jake offered. Emily swung towards him with her dead-eyed stare. You're a missing child. I'm an adult. And you've been in my house for days. Days, Jake. In what world am I not a kidnapper? Jake shrank further into the couch. Emily resumed pacing. So the police will come here. I'll just tell them to leave. No, that's stupid. I'll tell them they searched the house. They found nothing so that they file it normally. But if it's, God forbid, a SWAT team, no, that's fucking insane, Emily. Would they send a SWAT team? Am I panicking? Jake spoke barely above a whisper. I'll know if they send a SWAT team. Emily shook her head. I'm being paranoid. It'll be a regular officer. Maybe two. If I talk to them before they call it in, we're fine. But staying here is still stupid. Super stupid. We need to go. Where are we going to go? Emily? Jake tried to interrupt. I can't take you to my parents' house. That's a fucking nightmare waiting to happen. My brother's place is out. Check there too. She was pacing fast. Emily, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Emily? Jake said louder. I have an idea. She froze, still breathing hard, and stared at him like she was evaluating a threat. I kind of had a plan, Jake said sheepishly. You know, in case you didn't help me, I've been thinking about what I'd do myself. Emily forced calm into her voice. Tell me your plan. There's a big house, Jake said. The family's gone for over a month. I have the codes. I got them before they left. Emily's immediate response was to shake her head violently. What about neighbors, walk-ins, anyone checking on the place? Jake wilted. Couldn't you just tell them to ignore us? Emily stopped. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than police, and at this point, everything was terrible anyway. All right, she said slowly. Tell me about the family, the house, everything. I don't want to be surprised. She forced herself to sit, breathe, and actually listen, because for better or worse, she was a fugitive now. Chapter 58. Anomalies. This world is showing highly anomalous behavior in the northwestern quarter, Venrian reported, standing ramrod straight on the bridge. There is also undeclared Shaper activity in multiple regions, likely independent study groups authorized by High Council. Recommendation, maintain distance to avoid operational interference. That is our assigned region, is it not? Mora asked without looking up, fingers sliding across her holographic map display. It is, Venrin replied, clipped and professional. Display all map Shaper activity, Mora said. The hologram shifted, highlighting clusters of red indicators across the United States, Canada, and northern Mexico. dense enough to represent full Shaper teams on par with her own. And based on essence bleed patterns, they'd been active for years. Mora's jaw tightened. When was this world formally designated for recruitment and study? She asked. 37 months ago, Benrian answered. Mora exhaled sharply through her nose. The data didn't add up. The council was withholding intelligence deliberately, and that meant politics. She hated politics. Submit an official inquiry, she ordered. Transmit it to Sanctuary Command personally. Benrian saluted, closed fist from shoulder to chest, then opened the palm against his heart to seal the order. Yes, Commander. He turned and strode from the bridge. Mora returned to the glowing maps, mind racing. Something was wrong. Something big. System, she said. Call council of all available portal specialists. Meeting in 1 hour. Cancel their conflicting duties. May remain at their stations until summoned. Alerts transmitted, the AI confirmed. Across the ship, startled portal specialists were jolted awake or held over their shifts as the high-priority summons hit their consoles. Mora dismissed the map display with a wave and exited the bridge, transferring command to the secondary officer. She made her way towards the portal room at a brisk, purposeful march. As the doors opened, she found an expanded portal shimmering, cycling supplies from Sanctuary. Fenrian stood at the controls, preparing to depart. A young, blue-uniformed acolyte tended the console, too young and too confident. Acolyte, Mora said sharply, transfer control to Venrian and walk with me. The young woman saluted immediately and obeyed as Venrian stepped smoothly into position. Name and rank, Mora demanded as they exited into the corridor. Selfish Pilon, 3 bar 1 knot, ma'am. Mora's eyes narrowed. Teen, maybe 20, and already holding a knot? Portal specialists always climbed quickly, but that was recklessly fast. And the specialists were notoriously arrogant, half-trained, brittle under pressure, not like Donneral, never like Donneral. Have you personally stepped between worlds, Acolyte Selfish? Mora asked. Yes, ma'am. That made Mora slower pace, surprised despite herself. I assume you put in for explorer's duty? 1 cycle and 4 months ago, Selfish answered. Still perfectly controlled. Mora clicked her tongue. Talented, ambitious, fast-tracked, exactly the sort of specialist she'd had wanted on her team years ago, but also precisely the kind the explorers would snatch in a moment's notice. What is it that you want, Acolyte Selfish? Mora asked bluntly. Speak freely. Expansion command, ma'am. Mora gave her a long, assessing look. How old are you? 17, ma'am. Mora rolled her eyes. Children. Brilliant, reckless children. If I offered you your next bar and a sub-command on my portal deck, Mora said, stopping abruptly, would you withdraw your exploration application? Selfish froze beside her. Mora turned to face her fully. You would report directly to me for the remainder of this mission, fast-track to command school immediately after, promotion on entry, and you'll have my recommendation for any post you desire, after you serve under me for 5 more years. Selfish looked like her brain had crashed. A career dream handed to her in a single breath. Acolyte Selfish? Mora prompted. Please, Selfish whispered breathless. Withdraw your application. I'll finalize your station and transfer you immediately. Selfish nodded rapidly, almost stumbling to keep up with as Mora resumed walking. They entered the mid-deck library, and Mora guided her to a secured study room. She dragged a finger along the glass wall. It turned the glass opaque instantly, sealing them in. Listen, Selfish, Mora said, voice lowering. Woman to woman, this is the best opportunity you will ever have in the Shapers. The best training, the best education, the best access. I trained directly with Donneral. We were peers. Selfish's eyes went round. Her mouth fell open. You thought that was a rumor? Mora asked dryly. Selfish gave a weak nod. It wasn't. He isn't. Mora hesitated, debating how much to say. The truth was classified, but Selfish needed context. And you may have the opportunity to meet him on this mission. Selfish blinked several times. Meet him, Commander? He's dead. Mora allowed herself a sad, weary smile. He's not dead. He is alive, and I believe he is on this world. Shock washed across Selfish's face, a mixture of awe and horror. Selfish nodded, pale but resolute. You're off the portal deck as of now. You will assist me in investigating this irregular Shaper mission. This is need to know. You report only to Venrian and myself. No written reports, verbal only. Confirm that you understand. Selfish straightened, swallowing hard. I understand and agree, Commander. Good. Mora brought up a secure terminal and unlocked classified files far beyond Selfish's current clearance. Study everything. Earth mission, anomalies, unauthorized Shaper activity. When you're ready, find me. Mora stood. Selfish stared at the files like they were live explosives. Mora stepped out into the corridor, her mind already on the next dozen steps. System, she said as she walked away. Notify me of any portal specialist recruits who earn a knot immediately upon arrival to under my command. Affirmative. System, track all activity from Acolyte Selfish. Daily abridged reports, flag all outgoing communication for my approval, monitor for any anomalous behavior. Acknowledged. Tracking initiated. System, notify me when Venrian returns. Acknowledged. Mora reached her quarters and sealed the door, pulling up every classified document she could access on Earth. The Council's hidden movement and Rylan's. She did not believe in omens, but this mission was shaping into something far from ordinary. Something dangerous, something political, something she had not been briefed on or prepared for. Mora was no fool. She knew she was being set up. Chapter 59. Legend. Aaron woke again in the same impossible cavern, a place so vast and repetitive it made him wonder if there would ever be any escape. Weeks could have passed, or days, or maybe only hours. Time here meant nothing. It stretched and dissolved like melting wax. Colette sat nearby in her usual position, legs crossed, spine impossibly straight, hands resting gently, palms up on her knees. She was always there, always breathing, always watching, his constant companion. If someone who spoke only to remind him to inhale or exhale could be considered a companion. Every few minutes she told him to breathe. Every few more she told him to quiet his mind. And beyond that, she reminded him again. Other than that, she was practically a statue. The only real conversation he got was when she brought him meals. Meals he admitted he liked, mostly because it meant she spoke about something other than the shape of his breath. But his pain was gone, and so was his hunger, and so was the bone-deep exhaustion. He wasn't suffering. He was bored in a way that felt worse than suffering. His mind was so clear he felt hollow, an empty glass orb rolling around in a giant echoing world. Still, Bouette would shake her head and tell him somehow his mind wasn't clear. Focus on the lights. Focus on your breath. Focus on the stillness, she would say. If he focused any harder, he would evaporate and become nothing at all. Aaron checked his watch. 2 minutes since he last checked. It felt like 2 years. He groaned. Bouette looked up at him with a tiny smirk, an almost mocking acknowledgement of how deeply he hated this place. This is torture, Aaron muttered. Bouette simply smiled. Torture? Yes, torture. She only shrugged and resumed her perfect posture. She could sit like that for hours, breathing so slowly he wasn't convinced she was breathing at all. I need to do something, Aaron growled. Okay, she said gently. Go for a run. He already had, many times. He had turned deep into the cavern until his legs and his lungs burned. He had tried to escape that way, thinking that if he ran long enough and fast enough, he'd find his way out. But even after running for hours, the cavern didn't change. The same walls, the same hanging crystals, the same black rubbery pathways stretching on into forever. Like a maze designed by someone who hated joy. He suspected he would eventually loop back, no matter which direction he chose. Bouette told him not to make too many turns or he'd get lost. He didn't believe he could. He was certain she could find him if she needed to. She could step between worlds on a whim. So what was this maze to her? Still, she warned him. He didn't know if she was being careful or if she was being kind. He wandered anyway. He needed the motion. 12 minutes brought him to the first intersection, identical to the last 20. He turned left. 20 minutes later, another intersection, another left. Another stretch of empty halls. Eventually, inevitably, he found himself back at the camp. A perfect triangle. 3 turns, and the universe spat him back where he started, but was still sitting exactly as he'd left her. He screamed, a long, primal, almost operatic scream. He poured his soul into that scream. When he finally ran out of air, he looked at Gillette. She was grinning. "Why are you smiling?" he demanded. "Why aren't you?" she asked, perfectly calm. "Because this is hell, Aaron," she said softly. "Once you can focus and you master yourself, we can leave. I've told you, we stay only as long as this is necessary for you." Her sympathy made him want to yell again. "There has to be another way," Aaron begged. "Anything, just something else." Gouette shook her head gently. "You are connected to more essence than any being your age should ever touch. If you go back without control, you could level a city just by panicking, or thinking the wrong thought too loudly." Aaron swallowed. He hated how that had made sense. He hated that he felt she was right. "You're like a child holding a nuclear power plant," Gouette continued softly. "Nothing else will help you. Only you." He didn't know whether to scream or cry, so he didn't either. He just sat down, staring blankly ahead, letting the boredom smother him like a heavy blanket. Resumed her slow breathing. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, endlessly. And Aaron returned to counting the seconds, and then the minutes, and then his breaths. It was the greatest prison he'd ever imagined, and the only way out was through.
Chapter 60. The Truth Laid Bare. "How long will this inquiry be?" Rylan asked plainly. Judge Orla had cornered him the moment he returned from the Essence Wells, firing questions before he had a chance to ask any of his own. He'd known Sanctuary's High Council might take note of him. He had simply hoped he'd be finished training his foreign recruits and back on Earth before any judge could arrive. He had not been so lucky. "As long as it takes," Orla replied curtly. "What else can I provide?" Rylan asked calmly, hands tucked casually in his pockets. "That would ease your doubts about my work here." He'd gambled by telling her the full truth without concealing anything, and he hoped his gamble would soon pay off. "Frankly," Orla said, "your story and your reasons for being in Sanctuary are ludicrous, and your plans exceed even the ravings of a madman." "Yes," Rylan agreed. "Sane men rarely accomplish anything." Orla's eyes hardened. "We have several active inquiries into the Shapers. Your former organization is a thorn in Sanctuary's side. The power they are amassing runs deeper than you realize." "The universe will remember who the villains are when the truth is laid bare," Rylan answered unbothered. Orla studied him carefully. This man, the former Shaper, a confirmed Soltor, held a frightening depth of knowledge. His unwavering calm in the face of political giants, military forces, and existential threats made her hair stand on end. She was grateful for the robe and the broad hat hiding her physical reactions, though she suspected he saw through them as easily as he saw through her. "What would you do?" Orla asked slowly, "if I decided to consult with the judges assigned to the Shaper inquiries?" Rylan shrugged lightly. "Then I suppose we'd find out what happens together." Orla broke eye contact. That response was absurd. He was poking at powers that would make gods flinch, and he spoke as if discussing the weather. "You're welcome to question my students," Rylan offered, though their understanding of Sanctuary's magic and government will be painfully clear within seconds. "And how long do you intend to train them?" Orla asked again. "As long as it is safe and I am able." "Do you have an estimate?" "No less than a few days," he said with a shrug. "No more than half a year." Orla rolled her eyes. "What might I do to encourage you to make your stay closer to days than months?" "You could consult the judges making inquiries into the Shapers," Rylan said. "They cannot be trusted to keep my plans secret." Orla inhaled sharply. She couldn't remember the last time an inquiry frustrated her this much. Decades, at least. But if he was earnest, if he was who he seemed to be, his plan could benefit Sanctuary in ways she couldn't ignore. His transparency was disturbing. The things he'd admitted would be considered high treason to the Shapers. The Council would not take them lightly. He was playing a dangerous, impossible game, and his honesty had made Orla an unwilling piece on the board. If she contacted the judges assigned to the Shaper inquiry,
they might betray Rylan just to curry favor with the Shapers. Even if she trusted them, they might intervene simply to stop him from provoking a hornet's nest. Rylan was small prey, easy to strike, easy to break. If she did nothing, she would be complicit in defying the Shaper's greater designs. "You are a frustrating man, Rylan," she muttered. "I'm in a frustrating situation," he replied, with a grin. "The Shapers," Orla hesitated. "They are truly responsible for the scouring of worlds? A true Noctium?" Rylan's smirk softened into something sorrowful. The small yard of sanctuary fell away instantly. In its place, dust-blown ruins of a dead city. Orla gasped. Her wards were intact. Her mind was anchored. Her will was iron. None of it had mattered. It was pulled effortlessly through dimensional space. Before she could breathe, another world, and then another. A burned-out metropolis, a hollowed forest, a planet of ash, cities crushed to powder. Dozens of ruined worlds flicked around her like a nightmare slideshow, each flashing past with no sensation of magic, no ripple of transition, nothing she could anchor to, nothing she could hold herself with. Her mouth hung open. She couldn't close it. She didn't know what disturbed her more, the undeniable proof of the Shaper's atrocities, or how casually Rylan wielded power that should have been impossible. "How?" Orla finally whispered. Rylan shrugged and returned them both to sanctuary, hands never having left his pockets. That was 30 worlds. Too many to dismiss as exaggeration, even if I had dedicated myself to falsifying them. "How?" Orla said again, shaking. "Did you use magic on me? I am warded." "Wards never have been very useful against my power," Rylan said with a grin. "You might be worse than a madman," Orla said, voice stern, mostly from habit, partly to hide the fear consuming her mind. "Maybe," Rylan said, "but sane men seldom accomplish anything." He turned and walked back into the barracks where his students waited. Orla watched him go. Only when he had vanished from sight did she allow herself to shudder. Thank you for listening to 10,000 Worlds, my debut novel. Episodes are first posted on my YouTube channel at Venture Saga, and then edited into 10-chapter chunks for podcast streaming, available on most podcasting platforms. Thank you for listening.